So on today's show, we are joined by Mr. Mutiga Mwongera, who is a father himself, a husband, and the founder of Papa Bear Kenya. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Jisikie uko nyumbani. Thank you so much. We love guests. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, so very quickly, Mr. Mutiga.
Yes.
Is it okay if I call you? That's where I'm going.
Oh, cool.
Is it okay if I call you Mutiga?
You can. Mutiga is actually my late granddad, but you can call me Mwongera also.
Mwongera.
Either
All right,
name- either
Mwongera.
name
I
works.
like asking because some people get a bit jittery.
Yes.
Yes, so Mwongera. My name is Eric Omondi, and we are the adults in the room. It comprises of 4 individuals. There is myself. To my right is Emmanuel Kisiangani. He's our resident married brother.
Ah.
And to your left is, yes, Ameoa. To your left is Barbara Imbahala Mbaka, a.k.a. the Duchess of Ikolomani.
Yes.
Okay.
Barbara used to be married a long time ago. Akasema, poo! Akatoka. Sasa now she's just living her life like it's golden.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the fourth tire sits on my left, anaitwa msikilizaji. So this is a unisex seat.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, sasa anakaaga hapa huyu msikilizaji. So the 4 of us plus you now
Yes.
make the adults in the room. So thank you so much.
Noted.
It's very gracious for you to have found time to come. So let's dive right into it, Emmanuel, shall we?
Yeah.
So I read a very interesting report, Mr. Mwongera and Barbara and Emmanuel and you, msikilizaji. So according to the 2007 UNICEF report on the well-being of children in economically advanced nations, Barbara. In economically advanced nation. Hiyo si Africa, all right?
Hiyo si Kenya.
Children in United States, Canada, and the UK rank extremely low in regard to social and emotional well-being. This is according to a UNICEF 2007 report, all right? Many theories have been advanced to explain the poor state of these nations' children, most notably child poverty, race, and social class. Factors that have been largely ignored, however, is the prevalence and the devastating effects of father's absence in children's life. Mwongera, what's been very interesting in my social circles, I know a lot of women,
Yeah.
and I hear them nowadays say things like, mimi nataka tu mtoto. Nataka tu mtoto. Nikipata tu katoto hapa kadema makachali nitakuwa sawa. Kindly, if you would, could you speak to us about the vital importance of paternal presence in a child's life?
Interesting numbers you've put out there,
Yes.
Eric. Let me add another one. Some research was done in prisons some years back.
Yes.
Kenyan prisons. They actually picked 2 prisons in Kenya.
Yes.
And they did a study to establish how many of those inmates were raised by single mothers or did not have a presence of a father. Let me put it that way.
Yes.
Do you know what the number was?
Share with us.
It was over 70%. Who, well, you could argue that, prison is because by many other factors.
Yes.
But you can't ignore the absence of a male figure in somebody's life and the effect that has, especially within that context.
Before you continue, the same report, Barbara, the UNICEF, delinquency and youth crimes, including violent crimes, 85% of youth in prison, this is in the United States, have an absent father. Fatherless children are more likely to offend and go to jail as adults. So, similar thing.
Yep. That's a reality. And the truth is that the presence of a father, not just a man, but the father in the life of a child cannot be gainsaid. There's so much that a father brings to a child's life in terms of stability, in terms of focus, in terms of direction, in terms of guidance, so that this child knows what's expected of them, what they have someone to look up to. That presence is critical.
Yes.
Without that, the child is deficient. And many of us have been raised by single mothers, to be fair. And we've turned out okay.
Yes.
But there is something very powerful about having a male and a father figure in your life to guide, to consult, to give you best practice, just someone who you can walk with in life. That's very powerful.
When you talk about stability, when a child needs stability of a man or a father, what exactly do you mean by that stability?
So it means that there's something about having the father who is involved. And when I say a father, I mean someone who's present and involved.
Yes.
Because it's possible to be present but not involved.
Yes.
So having a father who is both in your life gives you a sense of continuity where every day you come home after school, you know that this man is there, this man is home, and it gives you a sense of comfort that allows you to focus on other things. When you don't have that, or when that person is not active or is not consistent, then what happens is you get distracted. This child comes home and doesn't know, will daddy be home or not? And there's something to be said about then why not have him at all, if that's going to be a distraction. But having a man or a father who is present and involved and consistent gives a child that comfort that allows them to focus on other things.
So what happens now when, like there's something Barbara said when I don't know what we're talking about, and I was reading the topic, Barbara, and I was saying all the fathers come and listen, or the people who are planning to be fathers, and there's something you said in the background. You said the ladies who are
fathers need to come and listen.
So do you think that's like that statement on its own, because it's a loaded one, ladies who are fathers?
Yeah.
So is that an oxymoron, or there are ladies who can actually be fathers?
So no, in my opinion, no. A lady cannot be a father. You can play the role that a man is supposed to play by default, or out of circumstance, or out of necessity, really, because there's nobody to play that role. But a woman can never be a man. The same way a man can never be a mother. I can never be a mother, no matter what happens. If I lose my wife, then I have to play the role that she plays, but I can never be a mother. Same thing for the woman. So I don't think it's right or logical to then say that if there's nobody in the place, then I will be the father. You will not be the father. You will be the woman or the mother playing the role of the father. But there'll be something missing in that situation. Because there's a specific role that a father plays in a child's life that you cannot play. You might be forced to fill in the gap somehow, but you can never. It will never be the same.
You can't fit in his shoes.
I feel very strongly that a lot of us are very ignorant, Barbara, about the effects of the absence of a father. And the effects on it, rather the effects of an absent father on a child. Yeah. There's one time, sir, we were hanging out with, maybe we found myself with 3 of my friends. There was a Nigerian pastor, his name is Tony, another friend of mine called Mwongera, another one called Kones. So we came from very diverse backgrounds. One guy is from Nigeria, another one from Mount Elgon, another one is from Nyeri, and this guy from Luo Nyanza. And when we were having conversations, and the conversation sort of steered towards the absentee fathers, we quickly realized that all of us had some serious issues about missing daddies. One of the guys said, oh, by the way, my mom and dad separated when I was 2. Another one said, I've never seen my father. Another guy said, I don't speak to my father. I saw him last when I was 4. And the other guy said, but we don't have a relationship. I'm close to my stepdad than I ever was to my biological father. Yep. So do you think that men feel sort of not valued, so that what they do is just go around impregnating women and then they continue to drink beers in bars? Yeah.
I think there's a crisis in manhood generally that is spilling over into fatherhood. In the sense that the identity of man has been challenged, has changed. Previously, we knew what our fathers were. If I think about my dad, I think about my granddad. There was a certain image that I had of them. There's a certain way that men were supposed to behave, certain things that they were supposed to do, which has changed in recent years. So, for example, a man's role back in the day used to be provision. That was a big thing. The man brings home the bacon. Yes. He's the one who literally brings home money, and mom spends it or decides how it's spent. Yes. Or he decides how it's spent, whichever way. But the man's role of provision was critical and clear. Yes. But that's changing. Yeah. Now, women can provide. They don't have to wait for someone to sit and provide for them, right? So men are going through an identity crisis where, if I'm not the one providing, if I'm not the one protecting, back in the day, the man's role was to protect, right? There are random people showing up to break into your house and steal stuff, right? Nowadays, that hardly happens. And even if it does happen, you being a man doesn't necessarily prevent it, right? So the role of a man as a protector has also changed. Yes. So now, what am I supposed to do? If thugs check into my house, I'm just as vulnerable as everybody else.
Anaanza kupiga hata nduru.
Yeah.
In fact, men shout louder. I saw it in my neighborhood a few weeks ago.
Yes.
The women were much more stronger than the men.
Yes. You push the kids, at least the kids will protect you, right? Yes. So the men are going through an identity crisis where we do not know what it is that we're supposed to do. And in this day and age, when all of these traditionally masculine roles are no longer as critical, or are not necessarily being performed by the man of the house, then it becomes a problem. And men have to then reinvent and decide, what is it that I need to do as a man?
Yes.
So without going into the whole manhood thing, because that's a whole minefield on its own, if we think about what that then means for fathers, it means that fathers have to be clear about what their identity is. And one thing that life can never take away from you is that you are a father, whether people see you that way or not. Being a father is a biological thing. You side a child. You went in, you did your thing, and pregnancy, blah, 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 child is born. You're a father because of that, right? So that can never be taken away from you. So yeah, we need to re-identify ourselves as men.
We are the adults in the room, 94.4 Spice FM, and we're together all the way till 10. Today we have a special guest in the building. What are we talking about today, Barbara?
We are talking about fathers and fatherhood.
Yeah.
And we have a special guest by the name Mutiga.
Yep.
Well, have I said correctly?
Yes.
Yes, Mutiga Mwongera, and we're talking about impact of fathers' absence on children and how to become a better father.
We'll be back with some Kenny Burke coming up right now, and then we're going to go back and go straight back into the conversation, because I really want to dig in Mr. Mutiga in regard to the identity of a father in this age of the internet. So you don't have to touch the dial, you don't have to go anywhere. We'll be back. He's one of those petite brothers, lakini akishikilia mic.
He has a deep voice and a strong voice.
Yeah. He just takes you somewhere. Sindio,
Don't
Barbara?
joke with petite brothers.
Don't joke. Sindio, Barbara?
Don't joke with petite
Experience
brothers.
uko nayo mingi.
Sana, many years. It's authentic conversation.
I'm telling you, 19 minutes past 8 o'clock. We are the adults in the room, the home of soul music and authentic conversation, and we're having that right now. We have a special guest in the building, Mr. Mwongera Mutiga, who has decided to come and spend the evening with us. And we just want to say thank you, sir, for making the time. This time, we're going through a tough time right here on the planet Earth. But life must go on. And today we're talking about the impact of a father's absence on children and how to become a better father.
Yep.
Speaking of fathers, my father-in-law is the late Mr. Mwongera.
Yeah.
My father-in-law's name was Mutiga.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Hey.
So, Dad,
You did not just do that.
I am back.
so yeah, we were talking before we went on the break. You were talking about men and our identity.
Yes.
And I just wanted you to describe what our identity should be, versus how it's perceived to be in this. Because you've mentioned that sometimes we are confused.
Yeah.
Like we don't know because of different voices that are all over the place right now.
Yeah.
What to you would be the description first, if we could start there, of being a father? Like, who is a father?
Okay. So in my mind, and this is my view on this, the man or the father is like the CEO of that family, of that home. And a CEO is typically a very involved person. You get into the details, you get into the sticks, as they call it. So you're there and you're not just present. The CEO knows everything that's going around. Yeah, your CEO probably knows what's happening in this room right now.
Yes.
There's a sense of involvement and leadership that a man provides in the home. You make decisions. You take responsibility for what's happening in that home. And it's not being aloof or distant or zoned out, because that tends to happen, that you get zoned out. You're just busy on your phone or your computer or whatever. But being CEO means that you have to be involved, knowledgeable, aware of what's happening in your wife's life, in your children's lives, in everything else that's happening around you. That's what being a father means. Now, you might not do the traditional roles of a father, of protecting and fighting off villagers and stuff like that. That never happens. But as an involved father, as a CEO of that family, you're aware of what's going on. I find that that sense of curiosity that a man has or a father has around the things that are happening within his family allows him to be at the touch points where he knows what's going on. He's able to make decisions, he's able to guide, he's able to advise. When kids are struggling with something, you're there because you know what's going on. You're able to provide advice. And you can't do that remotely. You can't do that from a distance. You have to be involved, you have to be engaged. So I think of it as being the boss, the CEO.
And if we're talking about impact of the absence of a father, because there are two types. There's this father who comes home and maybe he's not there much.
Yeah.
Right. And then now there's this other one who is nowhere to be seen. In fact, it reminds me of Tupac. There's a song which you remember the song Dear Mama. So he says no love for my daddy because the coward wasn't there. He passed away and I didn't cry because my anger wouldn't let me feel for a stranger.
Yeah.
So for Tupac, his dad was a stranger kabisa.
Yeah.
So do you feel like it is better, in quotes,
Yeah.
at least to be a father who's around
Yeah.
than, like it has a better impact on the kids? Like you're just around somewhere, then the father not being there and is just
Than
a
an
stranger
absent one.
out there.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd say it's better. I think those are two bad things. And I think we can console ourselves and say, at least I'm there, even though I'm not engaged. And you feel like that's okay. But it's not okay. It's probably just as bad. It's probably even worse than you not being there at all. Because these children grow up knowing there's a big guy somewhere in the house, but they've got no idea who he is. They've got no perspective on him. He doesn't talk to them. He doesn't engage with them in any way. You're just there to be seen. And I think that's worse because kids they yearn for that touch, that engagement from this guy. I would say there are three kinds of fathers, and all three are bad. These particular ones one is a dominant father, one who's overbearing, and many of us grew up with dominant fathers, right? You know that father who you came with 96% in maths. Where is the 4%? Those guys who are really on your case all the time.
Yes.
Nothing
was good enough. for
Nothing
them.
was ever good enough, right? And a lot of us grew up with dominant fathers, but dominance is in itself not a good thing. You have a high bar for your kids, but you've got no emotion, you've got no attachment to this person, and you want, as soon as you get the opportunity, you're out of that house and you'll never go back. There's fathers who are negligent. So they just don't care. The type that will walk away or the type that will not bother. They won't pay fees. They won't do anything. They won't engage in any way. And then there's permissive fathers. Fathers who are there, but because of how you grew up, you want to just let your kids do whatever they want. You don't want to take that leadership role and guide and provide structure to your child. You're like, I've sired you, so that's all. And I'll let you do whatever you want. Because growing up, my dad was very hard on us, so I'd rather not be as hard on you. And so those are, I think, three types of fathers, and all of them are bad. And what we really need to aim towards is being firm and having a sense of discipline, but also having love and being the kind of person you can relate to. Because your children, at the end of the day, you want to develop a relationship with them. That's what's most important. It's that relationship that you have with them. I mean, don't you know of people who the father is old, is in his 70s, and you've got no relationship with him at all. He was absent, or he was dominant, or you just really don't feel anything for him. You go shags and you talk to your mom. When you have anything, a project or something of sort, you give your mom the chums because you can't imagine dealing with your father. That's because there was no relationship built, and that relationship doesn't happen when you're a teenager. That happens from when you're born, when you're a child. That's how that relationship is built over time. And you can't wait until these kids are in their teens or in their 20s and start thinking, I can come back and make a relationship with them.
Sorry, Barbara, you've triggered something, Mwongera. I think I was thinking about my life as you were speaking.
Yeah.
I was born to a single wonderful mother. She did everything with what she could. She's since passed on. My mother was raised up in sort of semi in, 1 foot in, 1 foot out dad, my grandfather now. And then with a very present mother, my grandmother.
Yeah.
But she had 7 siblings, 5 girls, and the last born, a boy. So all she knew to do, she was the firstborn, all she knew to do was to interact with girls and bring up girls. So much so that her mother died when she was just 22, and she took up everyone into her own house at 22. So when Eric came to the fore, she didn't know what to do with me. So she would try and figure out and maybe guess. So she was very suspicious. Suspicion is what keeps ringing in my mind. She was very suspicious of boy children. And some parts of her maybe told her that, unajua vijana, you need to tandika them, or they'll go astray.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think I remember wondering to myself many, many times, maybe when I was 10, 12, I was like, where is my father? And what would it have been like? Uyu mama na kunigonga gongaga, you know?
Yeah.
Babangu
So I'd
akisema
wonder,
nini?
I'd always wonder
Protected
about
me.
that. And then
Yeah.
in my school, my desk mate, Martha Mudhoni, we are friends to date. Mr. Kamau, her father, was very, very feeling. He was a very different kind of man. Very feeling, very present, and used to have a stretch Mercedes. So what he would do is he'd bring Martha, park the car, and then walk her all the way up to class while holding her hand. And then he says, have you sat? Are you feeling all right? All right. Good morning, class. All right. Have a good day. Then he would walk away. And I was like,
He'd
damn.
even say hi to the class.
Yes, to the class. And I'm like, damn, I want that.
Yeah.
So how important is it for a father to show affection? Because I feel like a lot of us are trained to be stoic.
Yeah.
You cannot smile to a child. Una hug mtoto, atakuwa mjinga. Do you want to talk to us about affection? You know?
Yes, I do. It's misplaced, that notion that showing affection makes you either weak as a man or affects the child negatively in some way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually the opposite. Children yearn for that. I have 3 kids, and I can tell you, me playing with them and just doing stuff, contact stuff. I have a boy, and he's those guys who are running around. You want to lift him up and throw him around and stuff like that, safely, of course. But kids yearn for that physical touch, that affection.
Yeah.
And contrary to common belief, showing children affection actually builds them. It actually makes them stronger because then they appreciate the touch that you're giving them.
Yes.
It shows them that you care about them because they don't experience what you think. You see, when you tell them, or rather when you think good things towards them, children cannot experience your thoughts. They can't experience your intentions.
Yes.
All they experience is what they see or what they hear or what they feel. And they yearn for that from us as men. So I think, and you know, I growing up, you know, you could have grown up with a single mother, and you know, there's all this science about what that means and all that. But the truth is, many people turned out okay.
Yes.
But a lot of that was self-driven. So you had to learn some of the things that you've had to do as a guy, which would have been easier if there was someone ahead of you teaching you, walking you, showing you what a man is supposed to be like.
Absolutely.
By all means, by all intention, you'll grow up and you'll have a family and you'll be a good dad. I'm sure of that.
No, totally.
But it's not because it will be in spite of what happened to you.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be that way for everybody. I think there's definitely value that man brings into the family and into that situation, and touch is definitely a very big part of it.
We are the adults in the room, 94.4 Spice FM. Today we have a special guest in the building, Mr. Mwongera Mutiga, and we're talking about the impact of a father's absence on children and how to become a better father. And I hope, guys, when we come back, we're going to get a little bit more into the impact in regard to some of the things that, hit you when your father is absent. Eric, things like truancy, like your discipline levels are lower. I think we're going to get more into that. When we come back, 30 minutes past 8 o'clock, we'll be back before you can say...
Rumpelstiltskin.
94.4 Spice FM, broadcasting from right here on Mombasa Road. I'm in studio with, my favorite people on planet Earth, Eric, Barbara, and myself, Emmanuel. And we have a special guest in the building, Mr. Mwongera Mutiga, and we're talking about the impact of a father's absence on children and how to become a better father.
With the impact, I would like to actually just, not a question per se, but a thought that has come into mind when we were talking and we went on a break.
Yep.
There are many women in our society currently who are raising children alone for whatever reason, whether it's death of a partner, separation, or by choice.
Yeah.
We all know that. And I liked what you say, that we can be present and women can play the role of a father, but we cannot be a father. So in terms of discipline, how would such a woman play or bring in the role of father? One, should I bring in a father figure, or a brother or a cousin, or how should I press upon my child when it comes to discipline that I feel that a father figure should bring in that home?
Yeah. So this discipline is a whole ball game on its own. We say that discipline should be done by the one who loves the child. So in my view, I don't know if it's appropriate for somebody who's not the parent to discipline the child, or who's not the primary guardian.
I also agree with you.
You agree?
Yeah.
But discipline is not just about the kiboko. Discipline is about structure. It's about putting things in place for the child to follow, or a path for them to follow. The kiboko is a way of enforcing it, but discipline is not just about the stick. It's
Yes.
about, a way of life. It's a way of doing things. And that can still involve other people. But the caveat is that these people have to love this child. Sometimes we delegate discipline to someone who is not vested in the child's success. Like, say, the house help, for example. And you expect the house help to show this child how to do certain things. Yet this house help, her primary role is to take care of the home. She doesn't really care as much for the child as you do. So I think the caveat is just to ensure that, given your circumstances, for whoever it is who finds themselves in that situation, you don't delegate discipline to someone who's not vested in the child's success. Because otherwise, then, that child is not going to be disciplined. That child is not going to receive the kind of care that they require in order for them to succeed in life. I think it's critical to have, if you don't have like a husband or somebody, the father present in that situation, to have some male figure present in that child's life. It could be one of your brothers, it could be an uncle, it could be your dad, the grandfather of that child, who could play that father figure or that role, or to demonstrate what a manly presence in a child's life looks like.
Yes.
And you can foster that, you can make that happen, you can be active in making that happen. Make sure that man is calling this guy up, they go for coffee or whatever it is, they go for play dates or whatever it is, so that you're constantly making that presence felt in the child's life. But I think it's critical to have some sort of male figure if the father is not available for whatever reason.
What are your thoughts in regard to, because there's something very important in regard to the impact of the absent father.
Yeah.
And one of the impacts is a child's self-concept is diminished.
Yeah.
But do you have anything that you want to say about that? Because I'm imagining there's a father who's absent somewhere who's listening,
Yeah.
who then really know the impact of his absence.
Yeah.
And he's listening. He's like, hey, this thing, is it that serious?
Yeah.
So what would you say in regard to the child's self-concept and the impact of the absence of the dad in that situation?
Yeah, I think if I look at like girls, let me take girls first. For many girls, their father is their first love, is the one person who embodies for them what masculine love feels like or looks like. And the absence of that in a girl's life means, for many people, they go looking for that somewhere else, or they find it in other people. So you have this thing of, sponsors and little girls going after old men, because they lack, for some of them, a sense of a father figure who shows them what fatherly love feels like. So that's one impact. There's an emotional stunting that happens when that father's presence is not felt in their lives. For men, what happens with boys is then you have boys who grow up resenting their fathers for not being there and wanting to be everything that their dad was not, or trying to prove themselves above everything else. Yeah, you've met guys who are arrogant and they want to make sure they show you who they are.
Yes.
In some cases, that's because there's a lack of a father figure. There are other issues, obviously. Not everybody acts that way because of that. But the lack of a father figure causes young men to want to fill the void with other things. So that's when you have things like, drug addiction and truancy and all that stuff that happens in school. A lot of the times, it's because there's somebody missing in their lives. And it's not even about discipline. It's not that the dad wasn't there to chapa them when they got out of line. It's about the modeling, that there's somebody ahead of me, somebody who I look up to, somebody who I admire, who behaves in a certain way, and I want to admire them. I want to do what they do. Because here's the thing, kids do what you do. They don't do what you say. So if you're not there to tell them what, or to model that behavior for them, then they pick it up from anywhere else. And that becomes a problem in their lives when they're older.
Eric, do you think also that also has an effect of some of this for men, some of these boys become quite driven? Because look at someone like Obama, who is he looked like someone who's really driven. And even from his book, it sounds like he was that absence was really driving him to, push farther and farther in life.
I think you can go both ways. You can go the way of Obama or go the other way of, laxity and drunkenness and promiscuity. You remember the story I've shared here, the two boys, identical twins raised by the same dad, who was a drunkard. They grow up. One of them turns out to be a serious alcoholic. The other one doesn't drink at all. And their college mates ask them, so why do you drink? And he says, because my father drinks. And ask the other one, why don't you drink? He says, because my father drinks. So from the same thing, they get different results. So, I hear you about Obama, and that's a lucky streak. Not
You think it's 1 in a million?
No,
It's not a
this
matter
one
born in a
is
million.
maybe a 1,000 in a million, but there's a big number that these effect turns out for the negative than it does for the positive.
Yeah.
Barbara, you seem to have something to say about that.
No, I don't think it is a 1 in a million. I think it's also, it goes to the background and the raising of the parent. Yes, the child has lacked a father figure in the home, but I know many people who have turned out okay, and he also mentioned it.
Yeah.
It's all a matter, but it always has an effect. Now, that we cannot say, or we cannot deny that, because any child who's lacked a father figure or a presence of the father, because yes, you could be there but absent.
Yep.
There's always an impact. But how they turn out also is a matter of character and how the other parent who remained is raising them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, very interesting you've said that, Barbara. I have a lot of my female friends, again, my age mates, who have a child or two, and some because of many causes decided to go asunder from the relationship. And one conversation that keeps echoing and regurgitating is that he is not consistent. We waited up for him until 10 p.m. And Steve here, let's call him, the son, could not go to bed. And he never showed up. Do you want to share about the importance of consistency?
Yeah.
About the decision of deciding to be a present, active father,
Yeah.
and not delegating that duty for some 5 years part time and then showing up again. You know?
Yeah. The thing about fatherhood is that it's a change of status. And the reality is that as a father, your life is not going to be the same again. Fatherhood changes you permanently.
Yes.
And not just in terms of your psychology, but also in terms of your behavior and your practice. The things that you do will have to change. You cannot go, clubbing every day and hang out with the same people all the time, every day, the way you used to when you were single or before you became a father. The reality is life changes, and that's not a bad thing. For some people, the reason why some guys walk away from their kids is because you feel like this kid is going to bog me down. I can't do what I used to do. I can't hang out with the guys I used to do. I've known my friends for 40 years or whatever number of years. I can't have this little child now messing that up. But the truth is, your life has to change, and if it doesn't change, then there's a problem. You have to realize as a man that this is it's graduation, it's progress. You're moving forward, and with progress comes change.
Absolutely.
When you are in high school, you moved from high school to campus, and it was a completely different thing. But you grew, you became a better person. If you continued behaving the way you behaved in Primo, in high school, or in campus, then there's a problem.
Yes.
And it's the same thing with fatherhood. Things have to change. Things will change. And your ability to accept that and to roll with it then becomes a big factor in your success. What happens is, and again, speaking to the issue of consistency, kids thrive in routine.
Yes.
They thrive when they know what's coming. They know what will happen next. And when they know that dad comes home every day at 8 o'clock or at 6 o'clock, whatever time it comes up, then that's coming and they look forward to it. I've had times when I'm late at work or doing something else, I come home late and my kids are literally at the window. They're supposed to be asleep. They're at the window waiting for me.
Oh, wow.
And I have to go upstairs and I have to knock on the door and tell them good night. Then they'll sleep. They'll be okay. Sometimes that's not possible. But the point is that kids thrive in routine. They know what's coming. And that consistency is part of that, developing that routine. And something that we have to do as guys. Because if we don't do that, then our kids become uncertain. They go through life thinking nothing is ever sure in life. I don't know when dad is coming home. So you're always antsy about everything. You never know what to expect. You never know what to trust because your dad never gave you a sense of consistency.
Would you say that in our community, where we live right now, that some men, and without sounding rude, have become very lazy when it comes to the issue of parenting or fatherhood? Because they are not hands-on on it and they have left it so much to their spouses.
Yeah. There's a concept that we're calling to the friend of mine. It's called presentism, where you're physically present, but you're not psychologically or mentally present. So you coming home at 6 o'clock and spending the whole evening on your phone is not being present. That's you being in the room, but you're not present. And I think it's necessary for men. And I like that you're using lazy, because the truth is a lot of us just have to do things differently. We have to grow up. We have to just do things differently. Parenting is more about you growing up as a person and learning what you need to do differently so that you can pass that on to this child. Because this child, remember, is going to be a parent someday. This child you're looking at, that 3-year-old, is going to be somebody's mom one day. And all they will learn about motherhood comes from you. All they learn about fatherhood, that 5-year-old boy, he's going to learn it from you about fatherhood. So we need to be more present in our kids' lives, and not just physically, but in every way possible. Yeah, I like the story you gave about your deskmate whose dad used to take her up the stairs. For many men, that feels unusual. It feels weird. I mean, why would I do that? Yeah, I've driven her, she's okay. But you see, just that act is something that she will never forget. She's told you that story because she's never forgotten it.
No, I was sitting right next to her. In fact, I shared here by Emmanuel. I don't know if you guys remember. I shared and I sent her the clip, and she sent it to her dad.
Yeah.
Who's maybe now in his 70s. And the dad was like, oh, thank you so much for him remembering. But to Martha Mudhoni, that was normal.
Yeah.
That was no, and I was like, I want that.
Yes.
I want somebody to bring me up to class and say, are you okay? Have you done conflict? In fact, he used to say, wipe your desk. Make sure you wipe your desk. Good morning, class. Check it. Good morning, Mr. Kamau. And then he leaves with his daughter.
Yeah. You kids will never forget that. You'll grow up, you'll be old, you'll be 70, and you'll never forget that. Because that's what kids need. And I think as dads, as men, we need to up our game, honestly. We need to be better at doing these things which might feel uncomfortable for us, because it's not about you. It's not about you anymore. It's about that child. You need to do what's best for the success of that child, because that child needs to succeed in life. And if you are uncomfortable doing certain things, then just know that's going to affect the success of that child. What's more important, your image and what you think is your image vis-a-vis that child succeeding in life?
Who you have sired.
Yeah.
You see, that's also the strange thing.
They forget.
You don't want to walk someone you have sired to class. Who do you want to walk?
Some random bay.
Do you think there are many unqualified fathers who they're like, hey, me, I didn't sign up for this? Because it sounds like hard work.
Yeah, it is hard work, but I mean, it's in the mind. You a guy will happily apply for a job where he's underqualified, because he knows the salo and all that stuff, and he knows he'll prep himself and he'll get it done, right? And you do it with confidence. You'll go into that interview room and you'll do it. You'll ace the interview. You'll get the job. Why do we feel like we're not qualified as fathers to do that thing? I think the most important job that any man can do is to raise a family, to raise children. That's the most important job that anyone can ever do. Why do we feel unqualified for that? Yet there are many things that we do, just blind. We just go in there and say, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to find a way to get it done. You get a car and you figure out how it's going to work, right? You go and you want to take a loan to buy that mark. You've got no idea how you're going to pay it back, but you do it somehow. Why? Because you feel passionate about that thing. We need to do the same thing with our kids. We need to feel like our kids are important enough for us to go out there on a prayer and a song and get it done.
94.4 Spice FM, we are the adults in the room. We're together all the way till 10. And I believe, I feel like we're just, it's just starting, man. I feel like we just
scratched the surface.
Yeah, we just scratched the surface. But meanwhile, some Bobby Brown coming up right now. And, Bobby Brown has had his father issues, most definitely. And I'm sure, man, he'd enjoy this conversation if he heard it. Or maybe he is. A big shout out to you, Bobby, wherever you are. We'll be back with more conversation when we come back. Barbara, what are we talking about, girl?
We're talking about the impact of father's absence on children and how to become a better father. And our guest is Mwongera Mutiga. We'll be right back.
Bobby Brown had 7 children, and we all know his story about Bobby Christina, who was Bobby Brown's daughter, who was found unconscious in her bathtub at her residence in Roswell, Georgia, man. And she ended up sadly passing on at the age of 22, man. It's a sad story, and I believe that is why this conversation that we're having right here in studio is a very, very important conversation. And Eric, what are we talking about, brother?
We are talking about the impact of absent fathers to their children and possible ways to become a better father.
Is there action online, my brother?
There's tons of action online. And before the actions, I just want to remind you, if you're joining us, that we are joined in the studio by Mr. Mwongera, who is a father himself and a husband and the founder of Papa Bear Kenya, and he's helping us make sense of it all. We are talking about the father absence and its impact on children, also ways to become a better father. And there's so much already coming in. Please keep your thoughts coming. Remember, we're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and the hashtag on Twitter is hashtag AdultsKE, so we can quickly locate your feedback. Mandegwa Kenneth says, peer behavior and father absence have been associated with increased level of behavioral disorders in adolescents. Father absence usually has a negative impact on children and adolescents, and that these would face an increased risk for developing behavioral problems. There's Tequila Kevin who says, listening from Kisumu, thanks adults in the room for your authenticity. I love the topic today. I was raised in my father's absence, and I tell you I had to struggle knowing some things on my own. Even right now, I'm weak in making certain decisions, but pole pole, I'm catching up. Cheers, he says, and cheers right back at you, Mr. Calvin. And hi, guys, I'm listening from Riyadh. The conversation, I'm loving the conversation. There's a question here. Of course, I see you, Wise Man and Kema Wenga. There's a question here. Somebody said, it's worse when a father is visibly, his name is Asutsa. He says it's worse when a father is visibly there but aloof relationally, and worse and attached emotionally. But my question is there hope for such fathers? That's the first question. Question number 2, how can they be made aware of who they are and how to fix these challenges they have, especially the unchurched? He's asking, would counseling help or an act of parliament?
Act of parliament wouldn't help the men in Kenya.
There is Jose Mraz who says, my father never showed me any affection, but he showed my sister, the firstborn, affection, I guess. But I grew up asking myself, is being a man, if being a man involves being a loner? We all, he says, all in all, I grew up understanding him. I even more, he says. And then, of course, good evening here from Nakuru. This is Bimbo Victor enjoying the conversation. So many questions, Mr. Mwongera. I don't want to go further deep, but do you want to react to what this gentleman has asked about Act of Parliament? Na hiyo mambo ingine
aliuliza nini?
Aliuliza, my question is there hope for such fathers?
Yes.
The fathers who are worse, who are visible, they are presently there, all right? But aloof relationally and worse unattached emotionally.
Which is,
so it's just a caricature of a male figure in the house.
Yeah.
Do you think, just even to make his question simpler, it's just the normal dad? Like my dad was like
I hope you know that is not normal. So don't say
normal.
No, I'm
saying
dad.
The normal average Kenyan dad who, especially the ones of our generation, who was like my dad would walk in, has his dinner, goes to the bedroom to read his books, comes back to watch the news, back to the bedroom, comes back at 11 to watch the 11 news, back to the bedroom, come back and chase you and tell you to go and sleep. Like I feel like that's
you're making me feel sad for you.
Many dads were like that, don't you think?
And mine was not like that, and I assumed where I came from was normal. That's why I said, don't assume that is normal.
That's
but
a fair point. And I'm glad Emmanuel clarified. That's a fair point, Barbara, about normalcy, because normalcy is very different
from different homes.
Yeah. I think it's a question of what would make the child as successful as possible, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to raise children in a way that they can be successful in life. The whole purpose of parenting is success of that child.
Yes.
And you have to ask yourself what we consider normal, or what we do, what we've grown up knowing. How has that made me succeed or not succeed in life?
Yes.
And as parents moving forward, do you want to keep doing what you know will not work, or do you want to do something that you know will succeed? And we're in an age where there's so much information at our fingertips. There's so many things that there's so many resources you can turn to get information on what to do, right? So it's not an excuse. You can't say, this is how I was raised, because you know the deficiencies that you have as a person as a result of that upbringing.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be okay to pass that on to your children when you know better, or you should know better. I think in many cases it's an excuse that guys make, that this is how I was raised as a child. It doesn't have to be that way. What you did in the past does not mean that that's what your life should be. Is that the right thing for your children? Do you feel that you disappearing every evening is the right thing for your child? If it's not, then just don't do it. It's as simple as that.
Sometimes I think that, and this is very speculative, I think that a lot of us pair up with people because of very frivolous things. E.g., they have a very large posterior that we like at that night. Then we end up impregnating them with triplets.
Yeah.
But then now we are stuck with them.
Yeah.
Then we realize that they are demented.
Yeah.
And we are also demented. So now we run away. No, it could be. I feel like it's very important that prior to committing to fatherhood, you need to really interrogate the person you're making the mother of your children. Because further down the road, Barbara, the challenge of how you respect the mother to your child pops up.
Yes.
And if you have animosity and qualms time without number, then it affects the child.
True. It does.
But rarely do we speak about the need to interrogate your thinking about the person you pair with to make a family with.
Yeah.
I do agree with what he's saying. And for me, I feel like anyone can be a father. And we all know that you can sire a child, if God allows it. However, being a dad is different.
Yeah.
Is there a sign that someone can know that, hey, I am messing up, that these are the signs of being a dad?
Yeah.
Is there signs that I should know, hey, these are my red flags, I'm not being a good father?
Yeah.
Do you have any signs for these men? Because majority of them, despite being lazy, in my opinion, pretend they don't see that they're absent in their children's lives.
Yeah. I think so the sign is you will not know, or let me put it this way, you will not know the sign, if there is one, if you're not present.
Yes.
So the question we should be asking is, how well do I know my kids? What do I know about them? Do I know what my children like? If I was to go somewhere, and to answer your question, if I was to go somewhere abroad or whatever it is, and I was to shop for these children, would I know what to get them without having to call or SMS or WhatsApp somebody and say, anapendanga nini, size yake ya viatu ni nini? Can you do that without prompting? Then that's a sign. If you have to prompt to get information about your own children, that means that there's something missing.
There's a problem.
You're lacking somewhere. You're not involved to a certain degree. And the truth is that life is a continuum. You grow, you learn, you get better as you go. But I think the bottom line is that as a parent, as a father, you need to be involved. You need to know what's happening in your children's lives. Do you know what happened? Who's their best friend in school? Do you know who that person is? Do you know who their teacher is? Are you involved in those little details of your child's life? And if you're not, and you're asking questions of their mother, then that means there's something lacking, there's something missing. I think that would be like a basic rule of thumb, I think.
But what if I don't know now, but I'm in the office hooking up a tender?
Now you need to know.
This tender is going to set them up in future. Like, I'm doing this for them. Like, honestly,
Emmanuel, no.
Eric, I am in the office till midnight.
No.
I don't know their best pal, but their pal will know them.
Yeah.
Because of the life.
They'll be set for life.
Because of the
My
life.
pal will know them.
Yes, because of the life that I'm going to set them
Emmanuel,
up with.
today's conversation is for that kind of father.
When I get the money from this tender.
Yeah. You see, the thing is this: once in a while, work happens, life happens. There are things that you have to do. But the problem is when you think that doing that is a substitute for being a father or being present in their lives. Because how many people have we seen, rich people who they feel nothing for their fathers? Or how many rich people do you see, families where the second generation of that wealth does not sustain it? You know, haven't you seen people fighting in court for 20, 30 years because this guy spent all his time tafuting those tenders, didn't raise his kids, did not show them what it means to earn wealth and to grow. What's the harm if you're going to spend your hours in the office?
How about if you split roles? You split roles. I'm looking for the cash as at now. Like remember, I was watching a Netflix thing about Bill Gates.
Yeah.
So his wife was complaining he leaves her in the house, the big house he built.
Yeah.
And him is really they're busy running Windows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now the wife takes care of the kids during that time, and Mia sets you guys up for the future. That's not an option.
So you're assuming that you just getting involved in your child's life is going to take away so much of your time as a business person that you won't be able to do your business.
No, but you've said at that time, you're making the sacrifices for that period of maybe 5 years, maybe 6, 7 years.
I think you have to slot them in, no?
Yeah.
Do you know how much time it takes to get involved in your kid's life? How much time you need, like in a day or spending an hour with your children every evening? I know someone who does that, by the way. They go, they hustle, they come, pick their kids from school, drop them home, spend an hour with them, back to the office, and they're in the office back at midnight. And they do it. But they are involved in their children's lives. There are people who use that office as an escape and they hide from their family and their children in that office saying that I'm hustling.
I'm going to give you more time to respond on that because I feel like that's a very important angle, Eric. Many people are doing that right now, setting up their families for the future. So we can know the impact of that. We'll be back. We are Spice FM. It is exactly 9 o'clock. You know what? We value you, man. Adults in the room consists of Eric, Emmanuel, that's me. I'm the one speaking right now. Emmanuel, Barbara, and you. And today we have a special guest who has made time to come and share with us, Mr. Mwongera Mutiga, and we're talking about the impact of a father's absence on children and how to become a better father. And I feel like the whole country should just gather around the radio and just listen, because this is very, very important, man. Remember, the hashtag is AdultsKE. Remember also, if you've missed any of our shows, you can catch them on YouTube, the Spice FM Kenya page, and you can binge watch all the shows from the time we began. and I'm sure that will be a treat. Eric, do you want to tell your lady friends to tweet?
Absolutely.
What happened to you and the ladies, bruh?
We are tight. Tighter than
Why are you
tight.
always
No,
hating
this
on
guy
him?
never talks to them wakipiga
No,
simu.
but,
Ama it was okay, tukianza ulikuwa
Emmanuel, he's
excited.
working out for the ladies. What's wrong with
Barbara may
you?
not
Alikuwa
see
excited tukianza.
No, he's working out for the ladies. You know you're married, so sometimes you're blinded. You don't notice
na
some
hata
things.
Barbara sijana niliongea na wasichana wengi sana
Imagine,
hapa.
and he didn't
No,
see.
okay.
Huku sikia
Kitambo
nikiongea na wasichana?
Kamati ya roho chafu jamani.
Ama unasikia vibaya juu naongeaga na wasichana?
Anasikia vibaya.
No, kitambo ulikuwa na psych sana.
Don't worry about this, brother, ladies. Remember, we are together. Kama Chanda na Pete. We are the adults in the room, and you want to call us from around 9:15. The number, you want to save it right now so that I know saa zingine una drive or you're being driven and you have something pressing that you want to share. We are joined today by Mr. Mutiga Mwongera, who is not only a father, he's also a husband and the founder of Papa Bear Kenya. And the reason he's here today is to try and make sense of the effects of absent fathers, absenteeism as a father to a child, and possible ways we are discussing where men who are fathers can be better dads. And that's why he's here with us. So you're right on the money, you know. So you've joined the winning team. And you're part and parcel of this conversation. As always, remember, we don't speak at you, we speak with you. And how you can also get to speak to us, of course, apart from the phone call, is to tweet us and share your thoughts on Facebook. I see Barbara scouring the web to see your feedback on Facebook and Instagram as well. Our handle remains the same at SpiceFMKE. And remember the hashtag AdultsKE so we can quickly get your feedback.
Yeah, man. And before we went on the top of the hour, I was asking our good guest here, what do you think about like I'm a man. I don't want to be an absentee dad, but I also want to be a dad who provides the best life for these kids that I have, and I'm sure most dads have that desire.
Yeah.
So, and I gave the example of Bill Gates, who's now, he's just resigned, by the way, from the board of Microsoft. You heard that, Eric?
Yes.
And now he's just out, but he's running this foundation. But there was a time where his wife used to complain and say, "You're leaving me in this huge house, and I feel scared." But Bill was out there, setting up the company.
Chasing the paper.
And do you feel like that's a valid argument? Because I'm sure there's someone who's listening who's in the same position.
Yeah.
You're building up this thing for these children to enjoy. And yes, you're absent right now. So you've left it to the wife. So I was talking about dividing those roles.
Yeah.
So mommy even explains to the children. So she's like, "Hey, dad is out. Dad is very busy. Dad is the minister of the CS of health.
Yeah.
Na and you are in charge of this thing. So tumpatie to time."
Yeah.
So would that be okay?
Yeah. So I think,
I disapprove.
No, but
I just
disagrees.
wanted to say that.
Barbara disagrees. I agree with Barbara. I think there's the thing is this. As a man, as a father, the most important role that you can play is in ensuring the success of your child, which is guaranteed through your presence. I think the men who want to do that, their hearts are in the right place. You're trying to do the right thing. You're doing what you think is best based on what you know, your experience, your background, etc. But nothing can substitute for the father's presence. You can always make money. You can always do something. And how much money is enough anyway? But you only get one chance to raise that child. Once that child is grown, they're gone. You can always make money later. You can always do things later. And it doesn't mean that I'm not advocating for you to be a stay-at-home dad who does nothing, who doesn't work or anything of the sort. You can actually balance those two very well. But the challenge I find is that men tend to neglect their families and use work as an excuse for that neglect. And I think where that happens, then there's a problem. I think there's some men who are misguided and feel that that's the only thing I can do for my children, just to set them up for life. And that's important to do because provision is part of your role as a man. But what is more important is your presence and your involvement in their lives and them seeing you, feeling you, being involved with you, knowing who you are, being part of their lives is even more important than setting them up for life financially.
Emmanuel, just to react to that, Barbara, sorry. I'm reminded of a book I read, The Measure of a Man, and I've quoted it here before, by Sidney Poitier, the American actor. And Sidney says, ultimately, at the tail end of the book, he says, the measure of a man is how well he provides for his family, and not just materially, but being present, all right, emotionally, physically, mentally, and in all the lees there can be. How well he provides for his family in all those lees is what constitutes the measure of a man. And number two, I'm reminded again of a book I read, I think The Audacity of Hope, Barack Obama. Maybe The Audacity of Hope, I can't quite remember. Either it would be an article or one of the books. But Obama says that he would leave the East Wing of the White House during his presidency, leave a meeting going on there, then he'd go to Sasha and Malia's bedroom, read for them a book, tuck them, go downstairs, have dinner with Mrs. Obama, then go back for the meeting. Then he'd come back home at 2 a.m. for the 8 years of his presidency, at 2 a.m. to sleep. So I think one of the things, again, that is very important to say is that kids spell love as T-I-M-E. Okay? So you must create the T-I-M-E more than just saying you L-O-V-E them.
For me, I'll just to echo on both.
Big him a coffee.
No, he can't speak about coffee because
Eric
he's
is
not
looking
coming.
at me very badly.
So I stand corrected. I however think majority of the men that feel that their provision or their hustle or their material provision to a relationship, it is based on a background they come from. So majority of them have never really felt love. That is why they feel for them provision of whether material things or securing your future is love. So if you're in that cocoon, I think people need to get out of that.
You have to unlearn.
Yes, and learn that kids don't need that. Kids need to just see you. You do not know how those hugs or those eyes when they look at you. I liked what Mutiga said, that when he runs late, he finds his children waiting for him. Yesterday, I found my daughter waiting for me. And she was so excited. And I'm telling her, social distance, I'm from the office. Let me clean up with all this. But you could see the joy in her face. And she asked me, can I wait for you tomorrow? It is not about what I give her. It is not what I'll provide. It's not all the bicycles I will buy or the toys. It is just the simple fact that they saw you or you were there for them. So as much as you're playing this hustle game, and many men like doing that, tone down a bit. But strike a balance between your family and your kids. Maybe you can even forget about your wife. I'm not saying you do that. But your children, make time for them.
Yeah.
Mr. Mutiga, what do you think is the scorecard for Kenyan men in regard to presence, generally speaking? In your book, because obviously, in your opinion.
Yeah. So
Be honest with him. Just tell him. It's one.
Barbara's very low
1 out of 10.
hopes.
I'm
Yeah.
very low, unfortunately,
Yeah.
based on statistics.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do is I'm a coach for a class that does parenting. It's a class called Raising Future Parents. And when we typically have the class, which is it's a 12-week class that we do 3 times a year, out of a class of maybe 90 people, the couples are probably about 30%.
Wow.
So 60 to 70% of the class is typically single mothers in that class. I don't know what the numbers are countrywide, but I can tell you that there's definitely a problem with men taking their role as fathers. There's a big problem. I think a lot of men are just not willing to do it. They're not willing to take the time that it takes to be a father. A lot of men are well-intentioned but are doing things that are just not helping. A lot of men are not informed, so they've got no idea what to do. You're a father now, you've got triplets, and you've got no clue. I mean, where do you even begin? And they're just doing what they think is best based on what happened to them when they were children. Complete misinformation, the wrong way to do things, but they've got no frame of reference. They've got nothing to tell them to do things differently or better. So I think men are struggling. I think fatherhood is in a crisis today. Fatherhood in Kenya is in a crisis. Some of it is self-inflicted. There's some guys who just need to grow up and just take their role seriously. And there's some men who just have no option. They just don't know what to do. And they should be informed and should be helped. And hoping this show and others would help, bring some clarity on that issue.
Do you think culture has a lot to play with that?
Yes, absolutely. Our cultures are good to some degree, but I think they propagate certain stereotypes around masculinity, around fatherhood, which are negative, which are not good. Something as simple as changing a child's diaper. I remember, being given, or rather not having clarity about how to do that, partly because I never did that. My siblings are all way about the same age, so I have no idea what it's like to change a child's diaper. And there was this perception. I'd go to places and I'd be changing it. I would go to visit my uncles and I'd be changing the diaper and they're like, hey, boss, umekaliwa? Why are you changing the diaper? Si
are
mama
you
yuko.
okay? Mama
Si mama yuko. Umekaliwa na mama, si ndio? And the truth is, what's the big deal? Changing a diaper, what's the big deal? You're helping. Your wife is not sitting there waiting for you to do all the work for her. She probably has her hands full with something else. Just
or
change
even
the
if
diaper.
she didn't, maybe she's sleeping because she was breastfeeding your child, and now she's tired. So you're also part of the family in terms of, you are a parent to the child.
Yeah. Imagine just change that diaper. There's no big deal. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of stereotypes around masculinity that are propagated by what we call culture. And what they're doing is they're putting men in a place where they feel weird doing certain things. You would feel weird walking your child up to class because you feel that's mom's job. That's a woman's job. Why? It doesn't have to be that
It's
way.
like we're putting so much pressure on you, or we're changing rules of what women should do, and now we're making new people do it.
Yes. If you ever saw a picture, picture this, a man walking around with a baby strapped to his back. Yeah. What does that trigger to you? You think immediately, maybe they're playing a game or, this, it just doesn't look right.
People even make fun of it.
Yes. You find someone now that becomes a meme. But the question is,
especially
you don't
if it's
know.
with a lasso, right?
With a lasso, yeah. I have a picture of me with my firstborn and she's strapped to my back. Granted, it was a bit of a game, but there's a stigma
You
that
also
comes
agree.
around it. Yes, I agree. I'm a victim as well, or rather I'm a propagator as well.
Yes.
The truth is, we have certain perceptions of fatherhood based on culture, which are very negative and are very wrong. And that's what's partly helping propagate this thing of men can't do certain things. And, so that's what's causing men to walk away or not to play certain roles. And all those things are not helping because our kids are growing up with certain absence in their lives because their fathers are not willing to take certain roles because they're ashamed. They feel like I'll be ridiculed by my boys or something of a sort. Imagine it's just in our heads. For real. Nobody thinks that way.
True.
And I can swear that it doesn't reduce the length of your penis.
Yeah, for real.
You've tried?
For real.
No,
Eric.
it doesn't. It doesn't.
But you're right.
And it works, obviously, because you have kids.
Yes,
So,
yes,
right?
yeah.
Do you think ladies should be, if you're in a relationship with a guy, that they should be walking around with a commitment document so that you sign it before you bust any nut?
Is that the act of parliament that was being spoken about earlier? Is that part of the act of parliament?
Yeah, for real. It lists down all your roles.
Emmanuel, clap for yourself today. I want you to come. Please clap for
But
yourself.
they don't know if they'll be nearby. So Eric, for
I second you on that.
because I feel like maybe we forget.
I honestly think that if we just would have very sober conversations prior to such big commitments, e.g. nutting inside somebody.
Yes.
As in, before we get too excited with glasses of wine and then we come to your house, can we talk about the instance when these nut would turn into a child and what will happen?
Yes.
All right.
Will you run or will you stay?
Your perceived behavior.
Yes. Can we talk about what my requirements are of you as a man to be the father of my children?
Are you ready?
And what your requirements of me as a woman to be the mother of your children. If we spoke more, we'd avoid a lot of these challenges.
94.4 Spice FM. When we come back, I'm going to pick up your phone calls back to back. 0719 012 600 is the number. Meanwhile, some after 7. Barbara.
Yes.
I got this baby in the heat of the moment.
That's not an excuse. I hope it's another baby, not the one I'm thinking about.
Sasa itabidi nichungu baby after
Itabidi.
heats of this moment.
No, you have to chunga this baby for every action.
There's an equal
Equal
and opposite
and opposite.
reaction.
Thank you, Delhi. Thank you. At least you've gotten it. We are speaking about.
I'm telling you.
The number to call is 0719-012-600. Please remember to reduce the volume of your radio or your gadget to avoid feedback. Opine on the topic and be louder. You could also plug into this conversation through all our social media handles. That is Spice FM KE on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. The lines are open, darlings.
All right, we're just going to go straight into the phone calls and I think we'll pick up a couple, then we react after that.
Yes.
Spice FM, hello.
Hello, here is I'm Abraham from Kisumu.
Karibu sana, brother.
Nilikuwa nafuatilia kipindi na nimesikia vile kipindi imesonga, lakini mi ni mgeni kwanza.
Oh,
Karibu sana.
Okay.
Do you have a
By the
question?
way, nilikuwa hapo penye ilinigusa zaidi
Yes.
ni hapo penye mlikuwa mnasema ati vile unapata mtu ana change diapers alafu mtu anaanza kugeukiwa sijui ati unafanya nini. Kuna siku nilikuwa naoshea shemeji wangu vyombo na at that time I was at 20 hivi. Umejua mimi nimelelewa na mzazi mmoja, so pia watu walikuwa wanaongea ati wewe mbona we kijana unafua vyombo na mwanamke amekaa tu hapa, kwani wewe uko aje? So nilikuwa nadhani kama kuna shida kama mtu anaweza kuwa anafanya vitu zenye wamama wanafaa kufanya. Lakini nimefurahia kipindi.
All right, thank you so much.
Spice FM, hello. Hello. All right, that person is, they're just checking if the line is working. Maybe is it, Mr. Mutiga?
Yep.
Does it make an impact when you get married to someone who was raised by a single parent without their father? Like, would that have an impact on the marriage? Is that something to discuss seriously with your partner?
Yeah, it can have an impact, because then there are certain things that they may not know about the role of the father, for example. And a lot of conflict happens in marriages because of that. So you find people disagreeing because, she grew up knowing that mom does everything. So when the guy tries to do something, she either shuts him down or there's some sort of conflict around it, because as far as she knows this is what mom's supposed to do. He may have a different perspective on it because he knew how his father did things. So yes, how you're raised absolutely has an impact on how you manage as a couple of parents who are raising a child. I think it's important to have those discussions. The truth is that you can't discuss everything. There are things which you will learn later as you go through life. You can discuss a lot of stuff. You can come up with a checklist in advance, but there are things that you'll discover as you go along. And just being willing to change and to do things differently and to learn, just to realize that you're learning. You don't know everything, and there are things that you will learn as you go along. That willingness to do that, I think, helps you become a better parent.
My wife is, my wife's mother, who's my mother-in-law right now, she went to work somewhere else in Isiolo. So she was left alone with her dad. So she says she used to cling on his trouser, as he's walking around the house. She became very clingy. And you see, I find that, even when we got married, she almost became that with me.
Yeah.
She'd, follow me everywhere and be
You
very
didn't
clingy.
like that?
No, after a while, it becomes a bit irritating. So I was just echoing what this brother said about being raised by someone who has an absent father. I'm sure it would have an impact. And Derek, do you think that, since you're raised by a single mother, do you think you'll have to think about that when you get married to someone, especially who had both parents?
No, not only just have to think about it, but I've been really preparing, for lack of a better term. I've read lots and lots of books, and I continue to read so that I'm better acquainted about what is required of a man and what would be required of a husband. And
a father.
And a father, yes. And and that's why I love to encourage that if you have some experiences, you pen them down, because you never know who you're teaching without even having to meet them. I like the Obama example you gave. Obama is one of my biggest inspirations because his stories are very almost similar, identical to mine in regards to his upbringing. Of course, my father wasn't white, our mother white, but very similar story, and I believe similar to a lot of us. But how he decided to go up and high above his circumstance is admirable. So yes, I have raised it in my past relationships. By the way, Mr. Mwongera, I'm not yet married. I will be. And I remember a lady I was dating once, Emmanuel. She graduated and we had to go over to, some place to celebrate her graduation. And I was very keen to see how she relates to her father and her mother. And there was a lot of camaraderie and just a lot of bond, which was admirable to watch because I never had that. I never had that. Her dad just sat very pensively listening. And, every once so often in a while, he'd remove a handkerchief and rub some makeup off of her face, and it was very loving, So having conversations around what fatherhood would mean. There's a big joke with my friends who say, I'm Jahalingam. because I didn't do a lot of shags
The
and
village.
whatnot. So even in the Luo setup, if I would end up marrying a Luo woman, and of course our family would come about and start asking, so where is this guy from? You know, there's a lot of inaitwa nini ubaguzi when it comes to when you're not quite founded in that ushago doctrine, when you're not saying okay saa kwa west migingo right, you know.
When you don't know where you come from, they discriminate.
even amongst our tribes, and I'm sure for the Luyas as well,
Yes.
there's a lot of okay, so where is your shags, who is your father,
Yes.
who is your mother? So you can't start saying things like okay nilizaliwa hapa Lang'ata so ushago sijaenda sana. So like, so you mean you've gone to South Africa more than your dala? So it
Yes.
becomes an issue.
Yes.
So I think it's very important, and what I do to answer your question is I try and read and expose myself to material about people who've gone ahead of me. Like Sidney Bitterly wrote about his own inadequacies, about how he brought up his daughter. And he says he pursued a lot of Hollywood at a big chunk of his time in his maybe late 40s. And that led him to parent one of his children very poorly, who ran away from school and decided to get married. And he regrets that. And he owned up in a very transparent way.
Yeah, I
so
saw
when
that.
you read that and you bounce it off of yourself, you're like, you know what? Checklist, I must never do this. I must not pursue something more than I am pursuing my children and so on and so forth.
And Mwongera, how about now if you're like in Barbara's case, who's raising a daughter?
Yeah.
And you're a dad, but now you're divorced. Like, how are you a present divorced dad?
Well, you see the thing about time, and I think Eric mentioned that kids spell love as time. The thing about time is you spend time with them. Kids don't have a concept of quality time. They just know time. They just
Yes.
know that you need to be with them. Now, unfortunately, there are some times when the mother might make it difficult for you to be involved in your child's life. That happens. Personal issues, maybe the divorce was really a nasty one, so you don't want this guy involved. It could be personal issues with the woman. She just feels, I want to punish this guy by making sure he sees his daughter again. So there's that. But I think it's important that as a man you do as much as you can to ensure that you're in that child's life. Now, granted, that might not always be within your power to do. But for many people, I would like to bet it is possible. You can actually make it happen. And if you just decide, you know what, my child needs to grow. I need to have a relationship with this child because that will be more valuable to them than anything I can provide for them.
Yes.
And making that decision to do that consciously, deliberately, will go a long way. And even if you're being blocked by the mother or whoever it is, there are ways around it. Imagine there are ways around it. Yeah, you can make an effort. You can actually go call the wazes, make it a community thing, make it that this is my child, I need to be involved. But you have to want to do that. And for many men, they just don't want to do it. In fact, it's a relief. Like, wow, okay, fine. At least now it's not my problem anymore.
Yes, just to add on that, many men sometimes when they are faced with a blockage or someone says no to them, they give up, as he said. I feel that if you don't give up on your child, yes, you're having an issue or a tiff with a woman or the argument or she's refused to see your child, there are ways you can get around. Despite community help, there are legal systems you could actually go ahead and try and make an effort and be present or even just make time for that child. These children need to see a father figure in their life, especially if they know who their father is. Those who don't know, it's a bit different. But if they know my dad is Eric or Emmanuel or Mutiga, make that deliberate effort because at the end of the day, they will not know you had a fight with the mom.
Yeah.
And they'll end up blaming you.
Also, on the flip side, we could tell the women trying to block the men to just simply stop it. 'Cause
Yes,
that's
also that,
horrendous.
yeah, also
that
that.
is somebody's
Grow up.
son as well. Much as, she or he is your daughter, just stop blocking the man.
Yes.
I mean, deal with your bitterness. The relationship didn't work out. Move on.
It's a different season.
Yeah. And the power of the man's presence in the child's life has a huge impact on the success of that child.
Yes.
As a mother, as you're blocking this man, just know that you doing that is stunting this child's progress.
Absolutely.
They're going to be less successful in life because of that. So it's not about us. It's not about you. Parenting is about you changing as a person so that child can be successful in life.
So meaning, Eric, men should also carry those Bastanat forms. Like in such a dema sign.
Before they
Hapo
receive
nimekata, hapo
before they
nimekata.
receive.
Hatuko pamoja.
No, it's important.
Hapo hatuko pamoja.
One of my closest close friends, we took me to. Do you want to play something real quick? Then I tell you the story.
Yes.
Okay, let's go on a short break.
But Barbara would assign you forms. No. Spice FM 94.4. We'll be back to pick up more of your phone calls.
We are talking about the impact of father's absence on children and how to become a better father. Our special guest is Mwongera Mutiga, the founder of Papa Bear. We are picking up your calls from now till the top of the hour. The number to call is 0719 012 Please remember to reduce the volume of your radio or your gadget, opine on the topic, and please be louder.
Yes, very good evening to you.
Something
I was telling a story before we went on a break. A friend of mine, Mr. Mwongera, took me to Komarok. This is Kisangani, literally 11 years ago, Barbara. 11 years ago. Sweet, sweet girl, maybe 3 years old when we met her. And they'd had a child in a relationship with this woman. Gorgeous, gorgeous woman. Droplet gorgeous. Long hair. Waist in particular, nini posterior imeti.
Now you are busy looking at your girlfriend's wife or girl.
My friend.
Your friends.
Yeah.
We admire sana.
Okay. Siku admire, see it's
Leona.
In Leona, it was there.
Okay.
So then, so we sat and then she served us coffee and we were talking. And this woman had moved houses 3 times by then. And it took a bunch of intervention from my friend to try and just plead with people to allow us to go see the child. So we went, and then she looked super sweet, different from the things this girl was telling me about her. So my friend was pleading and saying, you know what, let's call her maybe Nimo, not her real name. You know, we went separate ways, and yes, I'm not proud about how our relationship, turned out. But I really would like to be part and parcel of this child. Almost in tears, guy begging. And so it took me as a guy who knows how to talk, to jaribu kupump. So after Maliza, I cleared my throat.
Mediator.
Nimo.
AKA Kofi Annan.
Huyu jamaa alali, Nimo. Huyu jamaa hata juzi nimemchukua kwake, nikimbembeleza Nimo.
Uongo.
Huyu jamaa karibu faint Nimo. Hii kitu ni serious.
Yeah.
Sasa ukiona hivi Nimo, huyu jamaa anapenda huyu mtoto.
Did you cry kidogo for effect?
No, I didn't cry, but sauti yangu ilikuwa ina fluctuate.
You know how Eric has this tone variation. I'm sure it has been used.
Sasa ilikuwa inaenda chini ni kama dodge.
Inadidimia alafu
It was like a dodge thing. Sasa kitu inafanyika ni huyu jamaa anaumia Nimo. So we pleaded and she said, look, I've heard you guys, but I have to leave. Like, I'm performing somewhere, karaoke, karaoke. So I was like, oh wow, how unfeeling. But of course we wouldn't insist. So says mtoto pia anataka kulala hizi masaa. So nimewasikia tu. Anyway, hapa ndio home na tutaongea.
You were chased.
So you're like, okay, so very dismissive. So I told my friend, all right, so we leave. And then I said, just to throw caution in the way, I said, how do you feel about us coming maybe this Saturday, and spend more time if you're not busy? And they're like, maybe on next year ingine, see, nitakuwa nimetravel. She kept slapping her, whatever. So we left. And then the following Saturday, where she'd promised, we went because my friend was calling, she wasn't picking, so we just went. I told him, let's just go. So we went. Tukaambiwa huyu alihama midweek.
Alihama ya kweli.
Alihama kahama. In fact, nilikuwa naona dirisha ikipigwa rangi. Alihama.
Mlimfuata kahama.
Huyu msichana, from then until now, my friend has never set her eye on that child.
Okay, that's sad.
That is sad.
So you see, there are women who do that, and it's terrible.
Yes.
If you want to make my friend choke, just say, Nimo.
That's crazy.
So unaona anatesa huyu rafiki yangu.
Yeah.
So if you're a woman and you're doing that, that is bad.
That's
very
bad.
Yeah.
Women, we need to do better.
0719012600. Our special guest is here for only half an hour, so we're going to take advantage of that. Remember, we're talking about the impact of a father's absence on children and how to become a better father. Spice FM, hello.
Yeah, Spice.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Manu, what's up?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
What's your name? Where are you calling from, brother?
Yeah, my name is Njine.
Your name is?
Njine Macharia.
All right.
I'm a baba baraka, manze. This topic, manze, imeniguza.
Imekutouch pali.
Manze, though, I'm one of those silent listeners, but I always follow you guys.
No, that's cool. Do you have a question for our guest?
Yeah, first say hi to the rest of the crew.
Hello.
What up?
Hey, Mama Harry.
Yes.
Niaje?
Salama sana. Habari ya sahi?
Poa sana. Salimia hivi.
Nimesalimika. Umesalamia Mr. Mwongera, ndugu yangu. Salamia.
Yeah. Msalimia. Hiyo jina ndio ulikuwa umepotea. Hello sir.
Hey, sasa.
Yeah, manze, thank you for today's show. So, I'll try to be brief. So my story is I'm one of the separate fathers. Like personally, I'm separated from the mother of my kid. I have a 5-year-old son. Yeah, so sometimes I think it becomes hard, and maybe sana on the ladies' side. I think they try to take advantage of the reason why you guys broke up. Mpaka wanapelekea mtoi. Like for example, I went to see my son 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because he's with the mom, so he had a tiff at school. Alikuwa amepiga mtoi. So when we were talking, I just called my son aside. I was like, hey, you know what, Baraka, what happened? So he was like, no, this boy has been picking up on me and uliniambia, hey, daddy mtaki nipiga. Pia mimi nimpi. So when I tried saying the same to the mom, so she was like, oh, hey, umwambie apigane. Akifukuzwa shule hiyo. Yeah, it was an issue, she didn't take time to, like, let's discuss this, So she was like, hey, wait, like, it becomes an issue. So sometimes it's hard. So I don't know, how do you really go about that?
Yeah.
Where the mother is like negative, as in, sometimes we men, we just want to feel appreciated also, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
You want to respond to that, sir?
Yeah, sure. Paul, man, Gina, I know it's not easy having to deal with that. I mean, you're admirable in the sense that you want to be involved in your son's life. There's a lot of men who just walk away. A lot of men will be relieved that now it's not my problem anymore. So I commend you, man. Mafanya poa. Wanting to be involved is a good thing. I would say, think about what this child will say 20 years from now when he's 25. And he's thinking about his dad and what his dad did or did not do. It will not occur to him that his mom was being difficult at that time. All he'll know is that my dad was not there. So I would say, Jikaze, my friend, just do all you can to get involved in that child's life. I know you guys disagree, and it's easier when you have a couple that is living together to sort of work around some of these disagreements. If you don't have the same mind around an issue like bullying or whatever, when you're together, it's easier to kind of just come to some sort of consensus. When you're not involved, and it's whether when you're not present actively, then it becomes difficult, and the mother can always overrule whatever it is that you tell the son. But what I would say is do all you can to be involved in this child's life. If she's blocking you, like actively blocking you, because from what I'm hearing, it sounds like you have access to this boy. It's just that you're not agreeing on certain things. So I would say, have a conversation with the mother. Make it clear to her that it's important that you are involved for the success of his child in the future, and you need to be involved. And make it clear that you are doing what you can. And it's fortunate for him that you are involved in his life in some way. If you need to get involved, get other people involved in the process so that you make it clearer, then please do that. But have a discussion with the mother around it. But it seems to me that what you're disagreeing on is some of the details about how certain parenting situations are handled. Which happens even in married couples. Happily married couples will disagree on stuff. But I think the most important thing is that you're involved. Don't get discouraged, even if you disagree, even if your ideas are being overruled. Don't be discouraged, because what you're doing is for the success of your son. He's going to appreciate it when he's older, whether or not he sees it, whether he sees it now, whether you and your baby mama are agreeing right now.
What do you think about gently nudging a guy who's not really interested in regards to maybe this guy didn't come to see the child actively, so as the mother maybe you're separated, so you just tell him, hey, but I'm bringing the kid. And then you just drive to the guy's house and leave that kid there gently and say you'll pick him up in the evening.
Well, I wouldn't recommend that because that could be harmful to the child.
Yes.
There are situations where, say, the father has married another family, and now the mother on that other side is now like hates this child. So
we're
we've
not
had
comfortable with the
situations.
arrangement.
Yes, and they mistreat that child because they're like, this usi mtoto wangu, I can never love this person the way I love my own kids. And that can be detrimental to a child.
Could you pursue the guy without the child being around? Maybe you go to his office, wait for him outside the office, and like you're not causing a scene.
Yeah.
You're just trying to talk to this guy and show him the importance of hooking, like coming to your child.
Yeah. I mean, by all means, you want to try and get that man involved, as by all means possible. But sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes there are guys who just don't want to be involved. There are guys who just don't want that hassle at all. And unfortunately, you then have to raise this child on your own. So I think it's better to shield the child from all the drama of a broken relationship and try and play both roles. It's not ideal, but it's better than exposing this child to the drama that your relationship has become. Because then the child sees dysfunction. You'd rather have them see what one parent put together looks like, as opposed to having two parents who are always at each other's necks. Then that's worse for the child. So, you want to shield them as much as possible from that kind of drama. You want to try and involve the man as much as you can. If he doesn't want to be involved, you can't force him. He's an adult. He's made his choice. So, you live with it. But you also have to make it clear to him, the father, that the success of his child depends a lot on his involvement in this child's life. And he'll come to his decision in time. He might decide to just walk away. He might decide later on to get involved. He might decide, you know what, when this child is 20, 30, then I'll come in. But he needs to know that it's not good what he's doing. But he still has to make the choice.
Emmanuel, I don't think it's possible to force someone to love their own child. Or
Can
to
you
have,
gently nudge?
You can try and nudge. Okay, I don't know what you mean by nudge or what, but you can try and initiate communication. Okay, I do understand the meaning of nudge. But when it comes to relationship, especially parents' relationship or parent with a spouse, a relationship between a spouse or a relationship between a child, it is sometimes very difficult to force someone. There are men and women who take it personal. That when I fell out with Emmanuel, also I fell out with the child. So you really cannot force. It is a personal decision. You cannot force a man to have a relationship with their child. Life has to happen. Something has to tick them, or they have to get the aha moment.
But
or
now
God bless their soul. Continue praying for them.
Mr. Mutiga, where do we now start going now to child services so that at least you get... Because this guy can't just walk around freely anyway.
But they are walking around. I don't know why you're getting shocked.
Something hapo kwa, the way you have a stone in your shoe?
Yeah.
Like you need to feel something.
You have to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
So there are times when that's important or that's appropriate. And the times when it's not. Sometimes it's just a vendetta that you're upset that this guy watched you, so you have to make him feel pain, even him. Yeah, you're not caring. You don't care about the child. All you care about is that this guy feels the pain of paying for this child's upkeep. Sometimes the mother is in a place where she just can't afford to do it. Like, genuinely, there's a financial constraint, and it's serious and it's real. So you need this guy to get involved. This dude is an MP or some big baller rolling around in his VX, and his child is suffering. So sometimes you have to do that because it's necessary. But there are times when, the mother is capable. She's able to handle her business, and you've tried everything to get this guy involved and he's not involved. So there's no point. Because child services is really a protective issue. You're protecting the child from some sort of danger. It could be the lack of resources is affecting them in terms of their schooling or whatever it is, or it could be that he's being abused or something of the sort. So I think child services is a last resort. You have to decide whether that's worth the hassle or not.
Because yes, it is a hassle.
Yeah.
Emmanuel, there's a gentleman here called Levi who's asking, hi Spice, how do you guys compare the absence of either of the parents in the child's life? Absence of a father vis-a-vis absence of a mother. What's better? This guy is hell-bent on being absent.
Yeah.
Kama sio yeye bibi yake apotele.
Somebody has to be absent. Well, I don't know if that comparison is fair. I know that both parents play a certain role. What tends to happen is, for the most part, 90% of the time, it's the man who's absent. Because women tend to be more nurturing. The process of being pregnant and delivering and all that sort of bonds the child to the mother more efficiently than it would be for the man. In fact, you find that men don't really bond with their kids until they're much older. That happened for me. Until my kids were like a year plus. That's when we really got to know each other. And so there's a sense in which the mother will always will for the most part be willing to be present. It's mostly the men who decide to walk away. But I think because of that, then the danger of that being a problem is higher.
94.4 Spice FM, we are the Adult in the Room. When we come back, sir, I'm going to ask you more about Papa Bear. and where guys can just reach you as well as pick up a couple of phone calls. 0719012600. Barbara, what are we talking about, girl?
We're discussing about the impact of father's absence on children and how to become a better father.
That's some Atlantic Star coming up right now. 11 minutes to 10 o'clock. Barbara, this is my DJ voice.
Oh,
That was Atlantic Star with Love Crazy.
is that how you turn
I have a song for you guys. Sasa nimehamia mtaa wa saba, nilikuwa
don't
nikianga
spoil the song.
mama lingo tete terere tete tete.
You and your own soul.
You guys, this is the home of soul music. See the home of rumba. man.
See all of Rumba, Eric.
Okay, toka rumba kuna Mr. Nico Thiambo, who is on the air right now, right there
yes.
on Radio Maisha. And, if you're one of those rumba people, you want to catch him right there. We are the Adults in the Room. We have a special guest in the building.
He's called Mwongera Mutiga. He's also the founder of Papa Bear Kenya.
Yeah.
Mr. Mwongera, who or what is Papa Bear? In fact, that name sounds nice. Papa Bear.
Papa Bear.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Till Mumbi is shaking. Okay, I've seen.
We can see you.
Yes.
So Papa Bear is an initiative about fatherhood. It's a personal mission that I have in life to help equip, educate men to be exceptional fathers. So that's the tagline, exceptional fatherhood. It's based partly on my own experience. So when I became a dad about 11 years ago, I had no idea. I mean, diaper. I'd never seen a diaper. Like kabisa. I was
You're
green.
a napkin baby.
Kabisa. I was green behind
Your
the ears.
first one
kabisa.
is almost a teen.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Imagine
man.
that. Yeah, thanks. So, just realizing that, my wife she was reading up on this stuff and she was very prepared for it. Or rather, she was getting prepared for it. But there was no information for men. The books were all about pregnancy. What to expect
Fast
when you're
mom.
pregnant. Yes. Fast mom things, there are websites. There's all this information, but it's all geared towards the mother. Right, and the role of the father in that whole process is kind of not clear, or it's assumed that they'll just hang around somewhere. And I fumbled quite a bit. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing, and that was a struggle for me to be in a place where I don't know what I'm doing. It was a struggle, and I just realized that a lot of men are going through the same thing. They just don't have support or information, or they don't know. And our information seeking behavior as men is very different from women. Women will go out and look for stuff. They'll look for books, they'll read, they'll talk to people.
Yes.
But as men, you're like, okay, Sarah, I'll wing it, I'll figure it out. So I just thought that Papa Bear as an initiative would help sort of equip men to be better informed about what to expect and how to do it in a way that makes sense. I don't consider myself an expert. I mean, there are guys who've been fathers much longer than I have. And I'd like life to show whether I was a good father or not. But I feel that there's information that I have. There's certain resources that I have. There's certain experience that I have that I can share. And the platform allows for other men to also share their experiences. So that together we can figure this thing out. Because at the end of the day, all of us are learning. We none of us has the whole script. We're all trying to do the best that we can. And hopefully Papa Bear helps us get there.
How's the response like?
It's pretty good. I'm finding that a lot of the feedback I'm getting, a lot of my viewers, because right now it's two things. It's a YouTube channel, Papa Bear Kenya, and it's a Facebook page, first Papa Bear Kenya. And a lot of the feedback I'm getting, a lot of the viewers I'm getting are women, surprisingly.
All right.
Even these men are not plugging in.
Imagine. I think it's partly because it's the information-seeking behavior that women have. They look for information on these things. Men tend to not. And what happens is the men who do tune in, a lot of the time, it's because their woman in their life has told them. Your mom has seen it, or your sister or whatever, then tells you, check this out. And then people start to tune in that way. But it's been received really well. I think a lot of people don't have a frame to make some decisions or to behave in a certain way. And I'm finding that the platform is getting people to see how some of these things can be done better. But it's a lot of women, which is good. But it's not really the audience. I'm trying to talk to men. But
Power to us.
Yeah, power to
Maybe
you.
they normally watch. I remember when I was dating last, this lady would nudge me when I'm snoozing and show me long videos about a couple she was following in Australia. Checky, babe, watch. Checky, Mimi, what? Then there'd be some tall Sudanese woman and some Australian man. And they'd be like, so they're flying from Brisbane, they're going to Melbourne, and she gave birth in the plane. Checky, So what do I do with that information? But you see, now we were watching inadvertently.
Yeah.
So maybe they're watching like that.
Yeah, I hope that's happening. Yeah, I hope so.
And a bit
Men are difficult.
Watch Papa Bear. Babe, watch Papa
I shall
Bear.
start nudging men who I know to start watching Papa Bear,
Please
especially
do.
those who are fathers.
Yes, please do. Papa Bear Kenya, YouTube and Facebook.
So if I want to reach you, I look for you on Papa Bear. Is
Yes.
that the best?
Well, I'm also on social media. I'm Mutiga on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter as well. So Mutiga is also a way you can reach me if you need to. Yeah.
Now, there's a question which I think we haven't answered directly. And, okay, we've answered it, but we could just ask it as a question. And I just figured out what you'll say about that. How can I be a better father?
I think I'd sum it up in one word, and that is involvement. Be involved. That's the bottom line. You cannot father remotely or through Google images or something. You have to be involved. You have to be present. Involvement means being present. It involves following up on the details, knowing what's happening in your children's lives.
Yes.
And it also involves you taking a step outside of your normal structure to be part of these children's lives. I think being successful as a father means changing the way you do things, and that your status as a father means you're no longer what you used to be. You used to be a single guy or whatever it is that you are. Now you're a father. It's a change of status, and that requires you to change the way you do things. And if you do things the way you've always done them, you'll get the same results. And you cannot get the same results that you had as a single man or as someone who is not a father when you're a father. So you have to be involved. You have to change the way you do things. And I think a lot of it has to do with growing up, that you as a man have to grow up. You have to do things differently. Take yourself, your thinking, your understanding, your knowledge, your exposure to the next level, and realize that doing that is what is going to make your children successful.
I see a lot of brothers nowadays going to the bar, especially the bars along Kitengela area where I live. So you just come with your wife and your kid.
Yeah.
So your kid plays there, and you tandika drinks over here.
I honestly don't like that thing, but I see a lot of people doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's wise. I mean, you're exposing your children first of all to the cold, number one.
Yes.
And also, why you don't have to do things where you've always done them. Why not do something that the kids would enjoy? So I wouldn't recommend that. I think it's better to do things that children would enjoy. You know, the child does not enjoy playing out in the cold.
And then your child will
makes sense.
see somebody snogging somebody's mouth at the corner. You know,
Exactly.
people do strange things in bars.
Yeah.
Cheki mami anamresuscitate na hajafainti. Cheki amresuscitate huyo anamfyunza anam okay, twendeni.
Man, as usual, Mumbi, this clock is moving very fast. I think we did a new one, Mumbi, because it's now saying it's going to 10 o'clock. Man, it's as if we don't have time.
Yeah, it's been 2 hours.
Thank you so much for making the time to come through. And I see you coming back many, many times, because this conversation has not even begun. I feel like there's so many angles we didn't touch. Eric, you want to thank our guests for coming through?
No, thank you so very much. I mean, you could be anybody, anywhere else doing this wonderful work that you're doing, but you spared us a whole 3 hours. That means a lot to us, Mr. Mwongera. And I wish you the very best. I think going forward, as Emmanuel has said, we look forward to more of your coming.
Yeah.
I think the more we have these conversations, the better. I actually saw a lady here saying, if I can just read this, Emmanuel, with your permission, real quick. She said, hi, adults in the room and the guest, loving the show today, learning a lot on the evolving role of fatherhood. So when we learn more, we become better. And when we become better, we do better. So thank you so much for coming.
Barbara, what's happening tomorrow morning?
Tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. till 10 a.m., pardon me for that, we have the Situation Room with C.T. Muga, Eric Latif, and Du Oko. You could also plug into the Spice Drive. That is 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. That is Monique, our honey voice. And at 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., of course, you have us, the adults in the room. That is Eric Omondi, Emmanuel Kisiangani, and yours truly, the Duchess of Ikolomani, also known as Barbara Mbaka. See you tomorrow. Have a lovely night. And thank you so much for plugging in. Always and forever, keep it Spice FM.
Eric, straight home. Are you going to have some lentils?
You know, Mr. Mwongera, I boiled some lentils in the morning, Emmanuel. I don't know how you guessed. And then I made with sweet
Mashed potatoes,
sweet
yes, sweet potatoes.
Sasa nikakaranga Barbara, nilieka olive oil, kitungu, all right, alafu nikaeka cinnamon, all right, alafu nikaeka
Hakuna
potato.
nyama huko kwako?
Nilimwaga maziwa nikafunika kidogo ikasima. Then nachukua hii lentil naeka kando, sweet potato kando, na unakunywa na nini? Black
Mr.
tea.
Mwongera, if we had time, we would have had a conversation on fathers.
Picking fathers who can cook.
Cooking.
That's
Cooking
something.
fathers.
And eating alone, that's the next topic.
At
when
least
you
I
come
have
to-
one potential father who can cook. The other one can only make mashed potatoes and minced
On
meat.
behalf of Mumbi, our super producer, we just want to wish you a very good night, as well as Brian Amlioto, who makes us look so good on social media. Remember, music all night long, so guess what? You don't have to touch the dial. It is 10 o'clock.